Hi, Siddharth. So this is the academic part of our class, and you are a professor of neuroscience. You have your lab at Puget Sound, and you also recently published a book on neuroscience and tarot. And the tarot cards that you put together are basically a way to read the tarot, but at the same time to learn about all the different parts, workings of our brain. And I loved working with you from day one, and it continues. And one of the big secrets of collaboration, and this is for the class, is you collaborate with friends because then you're not counting time, you're just kind of having fun in a smart way. And so our fun is giving dinner parties and lunches and workshops and talking about animals. And this class that's joining us today is all about art and science collaborations. All the students you met are in design media arts. So I'm introducing them to scientists and all the proposals that they come together as a group that they will be proposing. I will introduce them to a scientist that can give them some feedback. So we have one group that's thinking about herbs and different plants, indigenous plants. And so I'm going to introduce them to someone at the botanical garden so they can, create the project with some depth. And then another project is about children who lost a lot in the recent fires. And that would absolutely require psychologists, psychiatrists. It's nothing that can be taken lightly. So that's background for you. And then you can maybe talk a little bit about your side, as somebody who came in from the sciences, who actually really wanted to work with artists.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for the invite. And yeah, I met Victoria back when I was a postdoc at UCLA, and as a someone who was always wanting to engage with the public but unsure as a scientist how to go about doing it. It was something I was really yearning for, and so when the opportunity came to just talk to an artist and just well, it was great. I kind of went with it, and then little did I know that it would kind of span this collaboration that would kind of take like us through so many years. And as Victoria said, I think what we recognized in each other was that sense of passion, and also kind of just allowing ourselves to give us the room to explore and experiment. And one thing that I think all of you are designers or artists, you shouldn't kind of uh, a lot of scientists might say that you're flaky or you're not experimentalist, but you kind of have to kind of just own that you are also curious, and that curiosity itself is a part of experimentation. And then scientists will respect you for that, and then will want to work with you. So that is something that I learned working with artists, and how you can be courageous in kind of putting things out there, seeing how the artwork progresses, and then kind of get feedback on it, and then reiterate it, and kind of go through all those steps over and over again. So the project we were working on is the Hawks genes, and the idea is that you have a gene that controls your body plan. It defines the fact that we have a head and two hands and 2 feet, and the same set of genes allow us to have all these amazing animals around us. We have snakes with their long bodies, or we have elephants with their big ears and long trunk, and somehow that same set of 8 genes control the body plans on all these different variations that we see around us. Um, it's a very complex concept, but also a very simple concept that once evolution comes up with a strategy, it kind of runs with it. It just, why do you have to reinvent the wheel? So once the strategy of, okay, this is used for defining the body plan was made, the it just, you kept using it over and over again, maybe refining a little bit, maybe adding some redundancies, but kind of just using it over and over again. So in that way, many of you might be inspired by looking at nature, looking at things around you to figure out how to design things or make things happen. Because there might be something really kind of efficient in the way certain things are being made that you can use. Um, the way in which our project progressed was really fascinating to me. It was almost like watching an experiment kind of in progression. How we initially started with more of a tech heavy based project. And then where we were using motion capture and shadow rendering to kind of explain our concept of the Hox genes. And then we pared it down to make it more of just Chinese herbs and asking people to sit at a table. And then we kind of pared it down further to make it more of a social engineering experiment where we brought people to the table to eat together and having the kind of sourcing the content or the dialogue from the people themselves, realizing that, that is where a lot of the wealth of the information lies. um, for me, it's fascinating. I've kind of come a full circle now, where at the point where I met Victoria in 2008, I was interested in all Hawk genes, but not working on them. And now, 16 years later, I'm actually starting to work on Hawk genes in my lab. So I actually work on snails and transform their shape. And now I'm actually trying to figure out what Hawk genes are being influenced in their shape transformation. So I look at a lot of how different environmental chemicals affect developing brains, and I use snails as my model system. And so that's kind of a full circle moment for me where I've come back to looking at Hox genes. And I'm actually teaching a developmental biology course where I constantly look at these Hox genes. It's almost taken me a full cycle of the actual art project to come as a scientist to this moment of, oh my God, I'm actually a fully realized person who's kind of working on those passions that I expressed way back when. It's really a full circle moment for me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Is there any questions or comments from the students to what Siddharth said?
I
And
have an offering of shaved Brussels sprouts with oranges. That's kind of what I made for my.
okay, can you bring, oh, nice. And you just came back from India too, right?
Yes, yes.
So I will just mention one thing. When we met, we were in a coffee shop talking and just introducing each other, and I asked Siddharth very pointedly, if you didn't have the scientific career and grants and all the other pressure, like what would you study? And he just like blurted out like Hox genes, right? So he wasn't studying it then at all. But to me, it just sounded so cool. Like, what are Hox genes? That sounds amazing. And then he said, well, he explained to me exactly what he was telling you now, that all of us, from a snail to a snake to monkey to sheep to all these creatures, were all made with just a different way the genes are designed with this Hox gene. And I was like racking my brain, how do you make a project where every animal under the sun is part of this? But also, I thought it was so important to talk about the diversity and also how connected we all are, from the smallest snail to the elephant to all these different creatures. And then I was on the plane to China because my daughter decided to live there. So I was on and plane to China many times actually, as New Year's was happening. So it's a little bit of a full circle in that way too. And it just suddenly hit me like, wait, it's so great because we're all animals on this wheel. It narrows it down, and it also makes it personal because you have a relationship to that animal, and it works better than the Western zodiac because it's strictly animals. And then that took us on a journey where we started looking and finding out that each animal has a ruling organ, And then based on that ruling organ, we looked at Chinese medicine, we looked at Ayurveda, which is Siddharth's background, we looked at Western medicine, and it all kind of overlapped. So the ingredients that we send that are also distilled to basic are actually based on these different branches of science in relation to food. So that's just something I wanted to add to that. But we keep going, and actually what's wonderful about CC, who's preparing something magical, I'm sure, is that she joined us, well, actually to backtrack a little bit. I met CC when we had a show here at Bergman Station on synesthesia and art. And CC is a full-on synesthete, and she is really, in this way, it's so connected to Siddharth because she really advocates for neurodiversity or for different ways of how we may perceive consciousness and reality, not just on senses, but everything. And she did this most beautiful project for the Year of the Snake during the time of the pandemic. We did it during the Earth Day in 2020. And she decided to take the Ouroboros and ordered a snake. You correct me if I say this wrong, but from what I remember, it was epic. She ordered a snake from Amazon that was for food, and it arrived as in a box, frozen, right?
Yes.
And then you cooked it.
Yes, I did.
And then you had a live performance of you as a snake eating a snake, the full-on Ouroboros. And to me, that was just magnificent piece, which I will share with the audience when we put this together. Now, Cece is preparing a big gala, which will be on March 8th in San Francisco. What is can you tell us a little bit about the venue?
Sure. The venue is called the Sunnyside Conservatory, and it's in the city of San Francisco, but it's a little bit more to the south side of the city, in a hilly area just off of a canyon where there's a beautiful creek that runs through this canyon and heads out to the bay from there. The Sunnyside Conservatory was built in the 1890s, and it fell into disuse in the early part of the 20th century. And a group of people from the neighborhood, right around there, the neighborhood is called Sunnyside. They got together and they rebuilt the conservatory and refurbished it. They also commissioned an artist studio called Wow House, which is a wonderful, to me, a wonderful play on the term Bauhaus. Wow House made a series of imaginary creatures for the Sunnyside Conservatory, and they look like they remind me in some way of like the platypus, which almost feels like a composite creature with its different features that all come together. And so we'll celebrate the snake on March 8th at the Sunnyside Conservatory. Right now I'm working on an origami snake. It's just in its sort of nascent stages, but you can see how it bends and flexes. As an artist and creator, I'm really interested in the ways that we can repurpose art or repurpose items from our lives and make them into artworks. This is actually my master's thesis.
So you're repurposing it.
So I completed I have a Master of Fine Arts in Writing. My alma mater is the University of San Francisco. They were wonderful to me. This has nothing to do with how I feel about my program. I finished my MFA 2 decades ago, and I've made numerous revisions to this manuscript. It's on my computer. It's backed up into Dropbox. I've got it on an external hard drive. Like, I have numerous iterations of this work, and I don't really need to have it be on paper. And so I'm working with these modular, you can see these little modular pieces. I'll show you how to make these in just a moment. I don't want to in any way pretend like I'm some sort of origami master. Like you can see that some of the sizes are a little different. But what I am is a big believer in recycling and repurposing. And I think that the snake, the Chinese horoscope snake, is the ultimate recycler, especially this year, because this is the year of the wood snake. It's a year of regenerating from the earth, which, you know, given the fires in the greater Los Angeles area, I think that this is a really important idea. Like, what can we repurpose? What can we recycle? How can we make art from objects that are already in our environment, already in our home? How can we make art without buying anything new? When we did Hawk Zodiac, since so many of you are sheep, goat, whichever word, I'm kind of liking goat right now because, of course, you know, goat, greatest of all time. So those of you who are goats, I'm like on that. We did Hawk Zodiac goat. I think it was in the summer of 2022.
Yes,
And
yes.
I made this goat headdress.
Oh,
It-
yes.
yeah, in honor of the event, and everything in here is repurposed from my home. Most of what this is leftover pieces of paper that I spiraled and coiled, but the horns themselves are made from newspaper and masking tape, and then something called instant paper mache, papier mache, which is basically paper dust. It's like the paper that they sweep up off the floor of the factory. So you can buy these bags of paper dust, and when you add water to it, it develops a clay-like consistency. And so I was able to sculpt the horns from that. And so, Sid, you're going to have to wear this on March 8th. I'm bringing it.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah,
It's
and go ahead.
gorgeous. I'm just going so beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And so what I'm doing right now with my master's thesis is, because it's printed on 8.5 by 11 paper, and because Victoria mentioned synesthesia. Synesthesia is a neurocognitive difference. It's actually not that rare. About 4% of the global population has one or more forms of synesthesia. The chances are pretty good that maybe somebody in the classroom today, somebody in this workshop, has a form of synesthesia. One of the forms that I have is called grapheme color. And so when I look at this paper, I can see some words. One of them, what a sentence is, I stuffed the whole bookie wad into a pink string-handled shopping bag. The word pink for me is yellow because it starts with the letter P. The word string is bright blue. The word handled is green. Shopping is blue. Bag is red. So even though everything on this paper is black and white, I still see all those words in color, because the part of my brain that processes language and the part of my brain that processes color are as interlinked as this, you know, the beginnings of this snake. And so the way that I'm making these little modular pieces for the snake is pretty simple. You can take a square of paper and simply fold it along the diagonal. So you have this. I'm going to then open it up and fold it on the other diagonal. So now we can see these two folds, right? Then I'm going to fold into the center on one side and then fold into the center again. Gives me a shape that looks like this. And I'm just going to simply fold that in half. Then I'm taking one side and folding it in the middle. And I'm going to take the other side and fold it from behind toward the middle. I'm going to take this flap and bend it toward the center. So I've got a little bit of a hinge. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Now I have this little pocket in here that lets me fit it into the piece of the snake that I already have.
Oh.
The little pockets fit together. I'm going to take this and overlap it into here. And this and overlap it into here. And now I've got one more segment. It's really very simple, but it's kind of I mean, like all origami, it's sort of fascinating how these paper structures can sort of fit together so beautifully. And I'm excited to see what happens as I move forward. You know, one of the things that's happening for me right now is I'm seeing the handwriting of a classmate of mine, and she was so wonderful and so lovely. Like you can see her notes in the margins. And Debbie was in her 70s when she decided to do an MFA. She'd been a professor at my university and decided that what she would do before she retired is get this degree in writing. And so I'm doing another recycling project with Debbie's work, which is, these are marigolds from my Day of the Dead altar for Dia de los Muertos. And I'm taking them out because the petals, you might know this, all of the petals are actually seeds. And so in the segments that have Debbie's writing, I'm taking these marigolds that are the flower that we use to remember the dead, and I'm folding them into the center. And because of the way you fold it, everything stays tucked inside.
Oh.
And then
okay.
I've got Debbie's beautiful handwriting and all of my lovely memories of her. She's one of the funniest people I've ever met. I absolutely adored her. She lived a wonderfully long life. She died when she was in her late 80s. But I miss her, and her handwriting is here for me. So I'm just going to tuck that in. And every time I'm encountering a page of my manuscript where she left her words and her handwriting, there's also there's some secret sauce in there. There's some marigolds from my altar. So this, this to me is really what the snake is all about, and what the Ouroboros is all about. It's the constant returning. It's the eternal return that we keep coming back. We keep coming back. We can have new ideas. We can have new ways of expressing our creativity. But it's really lovely to sort of come back and return and come back and return and take something, that once was a particular piece of art, like an artwork in one form, and make it into something else.
Amazing. How many pages is the thesis?
So a couple of things. I'm because I want the snake to taper like a snake. I'm starting out with these are 8.5 by 11 pages. So the first squares that I'm working with are 8.5 by 11. And then I'm going to drop them down to 8 by 8, which of course requires some different cuts. And then I'm going to go 7.5 by 7.5. I'm going to taper it down. And at some point, I'm going to have some smaller pieces that I can work into the tail. So if I used all the pages that I have in my box, the snake is going to be like 457 feet long, or like it's going to be way too big to work with. So I'll probably use the smallest pieces I think I'm going to work with are going to be about 4 inches by 4 inches, and they'll comprise the snake's tail. But yeah, I have, because the Master of Fine Arts as a writer includes a lot of workshopping of one's material and bringing chapters in and having your peers, critique it and give you feedback, and then bringing back new chapters. I probably have 1,000 pages of paper.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't want it to go to waste. I've thought of different ways to use it. I've thought of making it into sort of like a ritual where I burn it, and that didn't seem quite right. And I've thought about, just using it as scratch paper, because the back sides are blank. But this to me feels like there's probably another creative project that I'll think of where I might, use more of it. But for now, I'll probably use at least a third of it, making the snake.
What was the year that you got your MFA?
2008.
And that's when Siddhartha and I started this project. Go figure. And
No,
what year was that in Chinese zodiac?
that would have been the same as, please, go ahead.
I think it's a rat.
I think it was a rat year. It
It
was.
was how
It was rat year.
perfect for a beginning.
Well, yeah, as rat, as the
The
first
first sign. The first
Yeah.
sign of the zodiac. Amazing.
Yeah, and there's something that you said earlier, both in your conversation, both Sid and Victoria, about the Hawks genes. I'm really fascinated by hats and headwear and the ways that as a culture in the West, we've kind of gotten out of wearing things on our head, but I love wearing things on my head. And that's one of the reasons, some of it's sensory, because I've got some sensory differences. Not uncommon for people with synesthesia. But the Hawks genes, and please Sid, jump in and help me if I'm wrong, but one of the hallmarks of the Hawks genes is they direct cephalization, right? They direct the creation of a head that has sensory organs.
Yep.
And so in that capacity of those genes to foster and generate cephalization, I get really interested in the ways that wearing something on one's head that is a disguise for that, or not a disguise, but that brings us closer to our animal. That's actually really interesting to me. And given enough time, I might show up on the 8th with a snake on my head. We'll see.
Oh. Do you have any other headdresses you could show off?
Oh my gosh, I do.
Can you do?
I do. It might have to give me like 1 minute to grab.
That's fine. I'll have Sid fill the space.
Sure, you do that.
So Sid, you're on.
I guess you need to bring your octopus head to the.
Oh, I should have.
Yes.
Maybe I'll bring it. Yes, I'll bring it. I'll bring it. You students, you don't know, but I have a project with a large octopus crown that two people sit across each other. And this was actually a collaboration with another neuroscientist, Mark Cohen. So as we sit facing each other, and this was for the audience as well, not just the artists and scientists, we would each oh, it gets so complicated. Anyway, another time, but another time. But it's a good idea. I'll bring it to the party. So yeah, here she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just show off one other piece. This is
Here's the wrong one.
yeah, this is my cherry fascinator. And I made this for my niece's 1950s wedding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so this is everything in here is actually also recycled in one way or another. And some of it's really wacky. So I used to be a competitive fencer, and for people who fence, especially people who might want to protect their chest, we have these plastic cups that you can put over your chest so that you don't get hit really hard with a sword. And so I started with that. This is actually one with belt, but I kid you not, this is a hard plastic device that's meant to keep one's chest protected. And what I did is I used some felt that I had around the house and lined it and hand stitched it, and had a hair comb that I also had around the house. And then I used to do costuming for the theater. And so this is Russian netting that was left over from a costume. This is sculptural metal. I don't know if you've worked with it before, but it's wire mesh that you can bend and shape. And this is this is actually from our sailboat. This is actually I just really like to reuse things. This is webbing that was used to sort of as tie downs. And so I bleached it. I have
Of
no
course.
I have no idea where this incredible, beautiful little bee came from.
Mhm.
But one day I was looking at the altar in my home and I was like, wow, who gave me that really cute little bee? And so I thought, okay, well, it's gonna go on the back of this hat. And then these are these cherries. I found them in a thrift store, and they were part of a big bowl of plastic fruit. And they weren't the right color, and I needed them to be a very specific shade of red. And so I got some kids glitter glue from like the child section of a craft store. And I individually dipped them in glitter glue and got them to be just the right shade of red. And so
There it is.
there it is, the cherry fascinator for anyone who wants to wear a cherry hat.
Beautiful.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, nothing. It's. I really want to feature you and any of your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about where my thoughts are right now. I'm really thinking a lot about what's happening in the greater LA area and the fires. Um, I had a fire in my house as a child. I'll give you the shortest version of the story possible, but I'm a big fan of blanket forts, and my younger sister is a big fan of blanket forts, and she built a blanket fort with a friend very late at night, and the blanket was over a lamp, and the blanket caught fire, and then from there our house caught fire very late at night. And when we lost power in the house pretty instantly because of the fire. And so as my parents were getting all of us kids out of the house, somehow I got lost in the shuffle and was not actually out of the house. And so my father actually pulled me out of the house, and I could see, the fire above me and shooting out of the walls to the hallway, and just really, really intense. And the next morning, we went back to the house and looked through the ruins and retain, gathered things that we could, and some things were ruined and some things were partially ruined. And so, so many people are suffering right now. And I hope that there are ways that whatever you're working on creatively, that you can see it as either a way to sort of repair and create a feeling of growth, a feeling of what's new, a feeling of, this is the wood snake. It is a time of tremendous growth. And see if you can find something that helps you feel really well sustained. Find things that help you grieve, and I think everybody at this point knows somebody who's lost something or who's been displaced. And if you can find art, I think that it's really helpful to find art that's meditative. And that's one of the things that's so wonderful about working with the snake. It's these little pieces, these little meditative pieces, this next step by step, with Ouroboros, the turning of the wheel, little pieces that bring you some peace right now if you're grieving.
Mhm. Thank you for saying that, because one of the discussions is about how to address this directly, indirectly, and even to the point of creating a sense of empathy towards others on the other side of the globe or close by who are going through equal and much, much worse
Sure.
situations. So it's about empathy building as well, and direct help in some cases, but somehow to not disconnect from where we are. So the whole class kind of pivoted because we were just in this chaotic moment. But it's
Yeah.
also an opportunity too, right? To
Right.
yeah.
Right. Hang on just a second. I forgot that I was going to bring my dogs.
Ah,
So speaking of empathy, like these are the most loving, sweet, beautiful creatures. This is Lucy. Lucy is a dog. She was born in the year of the dog. So she's a dog.
Oh, she's a double.
She's a double dog. She's a dog who's a dog, and her sister's around here somewhere. Yeah, I think that there's something about the Hawk Zodiac events that have also really fostered this idea of empathy for all creatures, just empathy for our fellow humans, and also empathy for all creatures, and the ways that, you know, creatures, we've had them, we've placed them at our service. You know, we use them for lab experiments, and we use them for their, you know, their wool and their and the, yeah. So did you want to add to that?
No, I think Sid just, oh yes, go ahead.
The only thing I want to add was, yeah, and that's the way scientists have been looking at those animals have also shifted from when we used to want to know about the animal and think about the wonder of that animal, and now it's been more of they use more as tools, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even in the sense of the Los Angeles fires, which we're still in a little bit in the shock of, actually, denial maybe. There's not much talk about the animals, both wild and pets. And further, the indigenous plants, or what kind of damage did it do to the ecology? Because it was abnormally hot, abnormally fast. It wasn't a regular fire by any stretch, because it was fueled by fossil fuels, literally, and climate change and disregard of our environment, etc. So to bring up the animal, I think, is actually really key. And that's where we're at too. I am so like heartbroken thinking about the coyotes and the bobcats and the mountain lions and God knows how many birds and little rabbits. You know, it's just like, where are they in these pictures? And nobody's really talking about it. So we'll bring it up.
You know, and when we meet on the 8th, one of the people I've invited to Hawk Zodiac is a friend of mine who does animal rescue in fire zones. And she rescues mostly domestic livestock, but also cats and dogs, and people's horses and their goats and their pigs.
Yes.
They're, you know, they're animals that, you know, from what I understand about these fires, people had to just flee.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of time. And so she was not deployed to the fires in Southern California, but she works with an organization that has very close ties with the state. And she literally goes into the fire zone and rescues animals. And they do also rescue you know, deer and bobcats and what have you. Yeah, and I also think about the, you know, the really little creatures like the insect colony.
Yes, exactly.
The insect colonies and the little creatures that live in just the littlest bit of water, the newts and the salamanders and the creatures that need that cooler temperature, that need that sort of cooler temperature right under the soil in order to thrive. And especially in a place like Southern California where there's chaparral forest. Like the landscape is a chaparral landscape, and it might not be wet on the surface, but if you go down a foot or two, you might find slender salamanders that are hiding out until the next rainstorm. Here in this part of California, we have banana slugs, and we don't see them a lot. In San Francisco, we don't see them a lot until we get rain, and then they all come out. But they're there in the brush. They're there keeping themselves moist and cool, and so I think a lot about those little creatures that are so vulnerable to changes in temperature, and that, you know, this entire ecosystem, like, how do we rebuild it? And not only how do we rebuild it materially, but what is going to be rebuilt? And
yes.
And so often from an architectural standpoint, when there's a fire of this nature, especially in an area of older homes, what people rebuild is really big. This is what happened in Oakland. When we had the Oakland Hills fire in 1991, which is, I live in San Francisco. So that fire was across the bay from me, and people lost homes that were 12 or 1,300 square feet and rebuilt, massive structures on those footprints. And that landscape, the footprint of the previous home. And so I wonder what people's ideas will be about how they want to rebuild.
Really important to think about.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So any last thoughts, Siddharth, or I don't want to hold you up. And I'm so grateful for both of you showing up to the class to give them your perspective, and I'm sure the class is also happy. So if all of you can come here and we give them a clap, 'cause that's all we can do. We have to listen. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.